time will prove. Yes, only time will prove if I have lost my way. 'Cause I hear tell about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements. Yeah, I've lost my way, but I hear tell about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for basements.
Hi, everyone. Frankie here, New West Reset. Hello, how's it going, eh? How's she going there, eh? Welcome back, everybody. Thank you very much for shooting in. Joining an old fella here for another one, another live one, that is, New West Reset Live, episode 78 today. It's a lovely day here today on this Sunday, August the 11th. Just a skosh past 4 p.m. local time. That's mountain time, you see, right here. As per usual, we're coming at you from Calgary, here in southern Alberta, in Canada land. Purdy, Alberta. Another lovely day today, like 25, 26 degrees Celsius. That's the low to mid 80s Fahrenheit is, so not too bad. Not too bad. Clear blue skies today, a little bit of a breeze, keeping a feller cool. So yeah, that's where we're at. So hello, how's everybody doing? Thank you very much for joining me here for this episode. It's going to be Torontonian Pedestrian Oblivion. Oh, I love these Pedestrian Oblivion live streams. We're looking at today. We got some old footage I've put together of Toronto. The T-Dot. So we're going to be looking at street scenes of people bobbing and weaving and shucking and jiving and zipping and zooming between traffic with streetcar trolleys whipping by and horses and buggies and later on cars. I don't know. Whenever we watch these, whether it's Edmonton, Vancouver, Toronto, wherever the case may be, it's like the people are just completely oblivious to the dangers of the traffic. Hence the pedestrian oblivion. It's become kind of a regular series here on the live streams. I think this is the fourth one that we've done now of these pedestrian oblivion. And I got more in the pike too, more in a holding pattern waiting. We're going to dive south of the border, South American Canadian border, that is, into the U.S. And we'll be looking at some, other cities south of the Canadian-U.S. border. New York, Boston. But for today, we're focusing on Toronto, or Toronto, if you will, but most Canadians pronounce it Toronto. Up here in Canada land. So thank you very much for joining me here. Thanks for winding down your weekend here with yours truly on this Sunday fun day. So let me know how you're doing. Say hello in the chat. Say hello in the box. Let me know where you're shooting in from. Already got a whack of people here today. And as per usual, links for everything we discuss will be in the description below. going to look at, just a quick history of Toronto itself and the municipal streetcar railway system, the trolley system, a little bit of that. I think I got a website for some old photographs. We'll look at some old photographs as well. And then we'll get into the nitty gritty, get into the good stuff, huh? The meat and taters with the video. And scrutinize that and just try to figure out what the heck's going on through people's heads while they're dodging traffic back in the olden days. So we got a hippie here, Hippie Shake in the box. Good to see you. Thanks for shooting in as always. Howdy, howdy. Kathy Childers is here as well. From Kentucky, don't you know? Hey, bro, Maggot in the box. Good to see you. Ancient One is here as well. Tidal. Tidal's here, everybody. We got Tidal here. Mad Fiddler. Howdy from North Carolina, from the NC. Well, howdy right back at you. It is fun. It's peopling, people watching. We're going to hook our ocular sphericals onto some shenanigans, for sure. Definitely lots of shenanigans going on. That's right, Kentucky in the house. Nicole is here from northern Utah. So just not too far away, just a stone's throw-ish, kind of. From southern Alberta to northern Utah. Not that far, really. 6, 7, maybe 8-hour drive, depending how heavy a guy or gal's foot is on the pedal when you're, hitting the highway, right? Depending on what kind of tunes you're playing, maybe. Will depend on how fast you're driving. It's kind of high roll, or used to when I was still driving. Put in some good tunage and, put in some Stevie Ray Vaughan, and all of a sudden, foot gets heavy. Foot gets heavy. So howdy and welcome to everybody tuning in on the HooTubes, on the Rumble as well. As per usual, we're broadcasting simultaneously over there on the Fighting platform. And again, links for that below as well. Speaking of links below, guys' emails down there. So if you want to get a hold of me, my email is there, as well as my social media page over on MeWe. And of course, my channel on the BitChute. As Hippie Shake is so kind enough to mention as well, if you want to throw a couple of Canadian doll hairs at a guy, I'll catch him. I'll catch him and I'll put him to good use. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll put it toward the channel. Recently have done so already, buying a new mouse, some new head cans. I'm trying to remember what the guys from the Beastie Boys called headphones. Ear binoculars or something like ear goggles. That's what it is. Ear goggles. Anyway, so yes, where are we at? Episode 78, Torontonian, Pedestrian, Oblivion. Also in the link below is my location map. So any of boots on the ground that I've done over the past 3 years or so. Cousin Vinny, friend of mine, friend of the channel, friend of ours. Because you know how it goes. Hey, how you doing? Is he a friend of ours? A friend of yours? Is he a friend of mine? Friend of he? Friend of she? He's a friend of ours. He's a made guy, huh? So, Tommy, where have you been, huh? Oh, I've been watching Newest Reset. Huh? Oh, it's Newest Reset. It's this thing on YouTube. He goes around, he does his boots on the ground thing. They'll tell you. Say you care. So yeah, Cousin Vinny's put together this thing here. Let me just show you what I'm talking about now. You just click on the link there for my location map, and you see my my icons there, and every spot where there's an icon is a spot that I've hit with boots on the ground. The ones that are connected with the yellow line is because it's been sort of a guy's just gone on walkabout. So a lot of the buildings are linked in one video. And then there's a few that are outside of the city as well. A place I hit up there in Didsbury, down in Pincher Creek and whatnot. I'm trying to remember what I think these dark ones here are locations that have been knocked down, but we've explored on the channel, I believe, through live streaming, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that is what that is, because yeah, this is like a 15-story apartment building now, but it used to be a beautiful row of brick and sandstone estate homes. Because back in the day, 13th, 12th, and 11th Avenues, I went the wrong way, 13th, 12th, and 11th Avenues, southwest here in Calgary, in what they now today call the Beltline area. It's in the Connaught neighborhood here, Connaught. Very beautiful, stately homes. The electric streetcar, speaking of which, whipped up and down those avenues as well. So yeah. Yes, impressive of Cousin Vinny putting this together. So very appreciative of him for doing that. And I'm pretty impressed with myself, seeing that, wow, guys, really gotten around. Pretty soon going to be heading up here to Edmonton. So that'll be on the map as well. While I've got it open, I guess I might as well show you where we're going to be looking at here. If you've been under a rock for the last 200 and some years, here's where Toronto is. Prior to that, known as the city of York. That's right. York in Canada land, though, not York, as in England. And not to be confused with New York, which used to be New Amsterdam. Wait, what? So, yeah. Yeah, I had to do what I do. And I'm lucky. I live in an older part of the city of Calgary my own self. So a lot of those locations are 2, 3, 4 blocks away from a guy. So, I work and live in the same community. So I can hit up a lot of these places, walking to and from work even. So, yeah. Oh, you have a York, PA. What is that? Pennsylvania. You have a York. I bet you there's a lot of Yorks, right? Because lest we not forget that America, the best neighbors a guy could have up here in Canada, down in the U.S. there, it was originally founded as, British colonies, right? So they were going to have lots of English or British names and so on and so forth. Yeah. Old world Mi'kmaq in the box. Quainida. Good to see you. Metalain. Yeah. I'm doing it all for your entertainment. What? Hey, what? What, like I'm a clown? Huh? Like I amuse you? Huh? Like I'm here to amuse you? Oh, I love it. And I encourage all of you to get your boots on the ground and explore your city or town too. Because the guy's willing to bet dollars to good Canadian donuts that even if you live in a little bitty town or hamlet somewhere, it's probably going to be at least a couple of questionable buildings. I'll tell you that right now. You can lock it, put it in your pocket, and take it to the bank. So as per usual, we're going to get into this thing here momentarily, and then we'll take a mid-show break, at which point I'll give you a sneak peek at some vintage footage stuff that will be coming up midweek on Wednesday. This one's going to be a banger. Great tune from a Canadian band, as per usual. I try to keep it Canadian content here, so that the CDC doesn't shut me down there, No, it's not the CDC. What is it up here? Canada's version of the FCC? I don't know. The Federal Regulatory Commission. Because a radio station and TV station's got to have like 50% Canadian content Monday to Friday between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Central Time or something crazy like that. Holistic Media in the box. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for shooting in. Good to see you on the show. Long time no see. As is the case with most of you since, what was it, yesterday? Yes, yesterday. On the live stream yesterday. Excuse me, I'm just lighting my smoke, eh? Don't smoke, kids. It's not good for you. Even though I get my smokes from the Indigenous First Nations people and it's 100% naturally. It's that government tobacco. Ain't that right? All right, so I guess let's get a rolling here. We already looked at Toronto on the goggle machine maps. Let's have a look at it on the Wikipedia just to give us a quick little, just to give you the official narrative, right, on the whole thing, right, in the city of Toronto. It's the most populous city in Canada and the capital city of the province of Ontario. So it's the capital of the province in which it's located, but it's not the capital of the city it's not the capital city of the country. That distinction lies with the beautiful Ottawa. With a population of 2.8 roughly million in 2021, is the fourth most populous city in North Americas. The city is the anchor of the Golden Horseshoe, an urban agglomeration. Wow, that's quite a mouthful for a guy. Of almost 10 million people as of 2021, surrounding the western end of Lake Ontario, while the Greater Toronto Area proper had a 2021 population of 6.7 millions. Toronto is an international center of business, finance, arts, sports, culture, and is one of the most multicultural and cosmopolitan cities in the world. Right there on Lake Ontario, The lake itself's lovely. The lake shore parks are quite lovely. Parts of Toronto are nice. But overall, she ain't as pretty a piece as Alberta. But that's just me. Indigenous peoples have traveled and inhabited the Toronto area, located on a broad sloping plateau of interspersed rivers, deep ravines, and urban forests for more than 10,000 years. You could probably triple that, actually. You want to go by their narrative of years, you could probably, when they're saying 10,000 of what they're telling you, it's probably more like 30,000. Again, our Indigenous brother in the box here can attest to that. Although, being slightly further east, the Mi'kmaq being more so on New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Quebec, Maine, kind of that far eastern area of Canada in the U.S., but after the broadly disputed Toronto Purchase, when Mississauga surrendered the area to the British Crown, the British established the town of York in 1793, later designated as the capital of Upper Canada, later to basically become Ontario. And Lower Canada was later to basically be Quebec. During the War of 1812, the town was the site of the Battle of York and suffered heavy damage by American troops. Oh, thanks a lot, eh? York was renamed and incorporated in 1834 as the City of Toronto. It was designated the capital province of Ontario in 1867 when Canada became a country during the Canadian Confederation. Yada, 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 a bunch of other stuff here. Early history. Iroquois established a couple of villages there. And then later on, trading posts, the usual stuff with the Canadian historical narrative of, the fur trade, the beaver pelts, 1813, as part of the War of 1812, the Battle of York ended in the town's capture and plunder by the United States forces. Thanks a lot. John Strachan negotiated the town's surrender. American soldiers destroyed much of the garrison and set fire to the Parliament buildings during their 5-day occupation. Take off. What you got to do that for, eh, you hosers? Because of the sacking of York, British troops retaliated later in the war with the burning of Washington, D.C. Oh, yeah, there you go. We got it. You got your comeuppance. We got you back, eh? Because apparently 2 wrongs do make it right. Turnabout is fair play. Was fair in love and war? I don't know. Well, you burned down ours first, eh? So we're going to burn down your presidential palace. And then when you rebuild it, you'll have to name it the White House, eh? Anyway, original population of Toronto, once it was sort of a town in and around 1830s and 40s, was about 9,000 people. Then it goes through, 18th century, early 19th century, 20th century, yada, yada. Links in the description. We don't got to get too deep into it there now, but, Let's see what else we got here. Oh, of course. Okay. Let's get into the nitty gritty here, considering we're going to be later on looking at a video of people dodging streetcar trolleys, risking their lives. So we might as well get into it. This is the, again, the Wikipedia, links in the description. And this is just the official kind of story of the Toronto Street Railway system, the streetcars, the trolleys. The Toronto Street Railway was the operator of a horse-drawn streetcar, there it is, ridiculous, system from 1861 to 1891 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Its successor, the Toronto Railway Company, inherited the horse car system and electrified it between 1892 and 1894. Well, there it is. So it's true. After the Williams Omnibus line had become heavily loaded in 1861, the City of Toronto issued a transit franchise for a horse-drawn street railway. The winner was Alexander Easton's Toronto Street Railway, which was required to build streetcar lines along Yonge Street, Queen Street, and King Streets. Service was required to be 16 hours per day, 14 hours in the winter, with a headway of no more than 30 minutes at a speed of not more than 6 miles per hour, or 10 kilometers per hour. Fare, 5 cents, no transfer privileges, and no discounted fare for children. Bunch of cheapskates. 5 cents, and I can't even transfer to another train? Sheesh. Oh, here we go. In 1868, the railway was in financial difficulty, of course, and could not pay bond interest. Thus, passed into the hands of bondholders under the appointed trustee. In 1873, William and George Keeley acquired the railway and obtained a new act of incorporation under the old name. The new owners operated the railway until the end of the franchise in 1891. So what happened in those 5 years between 68 and 73? Was it still running? I don't know. In 1874, the tracks on King Street were extended east to the Don River, west to Bathurst Street, becoming the city's third streetcar route. Later in that year, double track was laid on Church Street from King Street to Front Street, and then west to York Street. Yeah, okay. Basically in the downtown core and in and around the Parliament buildings, the provincial Parliament buildings, that is, not the Capitol buildings. Not the, federal Capitol buildings. And that gets into more. It was, they laid more track and expanded it and so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. In early 1891, the final expansion occurred. Tracks on Sherbourne Street were extended from Bloor, that's the financial district, over the Sherbourne Bridge to South Drive in Rosedale, after which the city announced that it would not extend the franchise. In other words, we're not going to renew this thing. Later, it became the Toronto Railway Company. Then it gets into track gauge and the routes and when they were opened and developed. So you can see they're quite early on for the streetcar, the trolley. But surprisingly enough, for how old Toronto is by their own narrative, very late with a subway, by the way. They didn't get a subway system until the 40s and 1940s, 1950s. One would think that, they would have had an underground subway system, quite early on, let's say late 1890s, early 1900s, 1910 at the very latest. But no, they really stuck to the above ground streetcar railway system for a long time, even though it kept going bust. So the Toronto Railway Company was the operator of streetcar system in Toronto between 1891 and 1921. It electrified the horse car system it inherited from the Toronto Street Railway, previous operator of streetcar service in Toronto. TRC was also a manufacturer of streetcars and railwork vehicles, few of which were built for other streetcar and radial operators. So they not only electrified the old-timey horse-drawn ones, supposedly, but they built new ones, and then they also built streetcars and so on for other companies, for other cities, I'm guessing. Mid-August 1892, they became the second operator of the horse-drawn streetcars in Toronto area to convert to electric trams, the first being the Metropolitan Street Railway, which electrified its horse car line along Yonge Street within the town of North Toronto in 1890. See, so multiple municipal railways running simultaneously, some horse-drawn, some cable car or electric, sorry, not cable as in San Francisco being pulled by underground cable, streetcar electrified above overhead wire, electric cables, right? And of course, they overlapped, right? You got to get that overlappage. So, you'll see in old videos or old photographs a lot of times the horse-drawn streetcar trolley and the new the electrified, running simultaneously, which is absolutely ridiculous to a guy, but okay. So in 1891, the 30-year franchise with the horse franchise expired. The city ran the horse car system for 8 months, but ended up granting another 30-year franchise to a private operator group involving railway entrepreneur William Mackenzie. The franchise, which involved converting the horse car system to electric operation, went into effect September 21st, 1891. I keep giggling at that, just the ridiculousness of the horse-drawn trolley streetcar. It's just goofy to a guy. Hey, Michael's here. Michael in the box. Howdy. Welcome. Good to see you. So what else we got here? They made a one-time payment to the city for the assets. Fares were 5 cents, cash for adults. 6 tickets for 25 cents. Oh, so buy 5, get 1 free, eh? 3 cents for children with school tickets at 10 for 25 cents. 10 cents cash for night streetcars. The fare entitled the rider to a free transfer between routes. See, there you go. Now you're talking. Anyway, same as the other, expanded the line, added more track, added more routes, yada, yada, so on and so forth. Link for that in the description as well. We might as well look at the last one here, which was, what was that one called again? Oh, the Civic Railway, which is what this basically breaks the whole thing down. I think they try to clarify it, but they probably end up adding chaos to confusion. Let's not kid ourselves. Toronto Civic Railways was a streetcar operator created and owned by the City of Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to serve newly annexed areas of the city that the private operator Toronto Railway Company refused to serve. We ain't going out there. And so the city was like, fine, we'll do it. When the Toronto Railway Company's franchise expired in 1921, its services were combined with those of the Toronto Civic Railways and are now assumed by the new Toronto Transportation Commission. The first route of the TCR started operation on December 18th, 1912. All right, so yeah, they're just kind of going back over this, 1891, then it expired, and then they took it over. from 1912 through to 1915, and then they expanded it on a few other major. So this thing went through, it passed through 3 different sets of hands since its inception, with each company having a different name. Although, well, actually, no, one company assumed one of the older companies' names. And when did this thing finally, I think it finally ended in the 50s, the 40s or 50s. When, of course, the bus. The bus takes over. Ah, see, there we go. Okay, I thought that was right. I remember you and I conversing in the comments. Yeah, okay, here we go. So yeah, I found this, it's called Setting the Scene. It's toronto.ca, City of Toronto. So before the birth of the Toronto Transportation Commission in 1921, Toronto had a hodgepodge. You said it, buddy. You ain't just blowing smoke there, eh? Had a hodgepodge of transportation services. The history of public transportation services in Toronto started in 1849 when a cabinet maker named H.B. Williams built an omnibus in his shop at 140 Yonge Street. This horse-drawn vehicle carried 6 passengers. Yeah, basically a horse-drawn bus, omnibus, bus. Each charged a 6 pence. I have no idea how much that is, but okay. The route went from the St. Lawrence Market to the corner of King and Yonge Street, and then went north on Yonge Street, terminating at the Red Lion Hotel in Yorkville. So popular was this service that Williams had a fleet of 8 omnibuses by 1850. This guy was a go-getter. In a year, he went from 1 to 8. However, he soon faced competition from horse cars, whose wheels ran along iron rails, providing a faster and smoother ride. Horse cars whose wheels ran along iron rails. So I guess it's not quite a streetcar yet. A trolley? We're calling it a horse car, even though it's riding on rails. Iron rails. No, nobody's telling us it's, this is 1850. Like, where did the rails come from? Who laid the rails? Who was already using the rails? Why'd they lay them? Anyway, in 1862, the new Toronto Street Railway Company purchased control of Williams Company, and omnibus service came to an end. Yeah, you just buy them out and shut it down. That's what you do. You buy out your competition, and then you just let their ass flap in the breeze. On March 26, 1861, the Toronto Street Railway was granted a 30-year franchise by the City of Toronto to provide passenger transportation services. The proposed routes were on Yonge, Queen, and King Streets. Yeah, we heard this. The Yonge line was the first to open on September 11th, running north to the toll gate at Yonge Street and Davenport Road. The fare was 5 cents, and a separate fare was charged when transferring from one line to another. See? Cheap bastards. There it is. A 2-horse car during a layover in Sunnyside near the intersection of King and Queen Street. Note that the Toronto Street Railways employees were not provided with uniforms. So these cheap bastards, man, the company you work for, you got to pay 5 cents to take the car. And then if you want to transfer to a different line, a different route, you got to pay a new 5 cents. You can't transfer your ticket. And the guys operating the things don't even get a uniform. They got to wear their own clothing. They have to use their own horses too. I agree 110%. I would think that once the horses were restricted to ride, like pulling the cars on rails, that you actually, you sort of diminish the, what's the word I'm looking for? You diminish the fact that you can like turn down a side street or something like that. Like, let's say you're a lady, you're riding late at night, one of these omnibus doohickeys, right? I don't know, You're a nurse and you work in a hospital, right? And you work in a late shift, and it's like, I don't know, 1886, right? And you're going home. It's 10 at night. It's dark. Hell, it's 8 at night and dark in the winter. Well, if you take the omnibus that has traditional cartwheels, you politely ask the driver if he can pull over in front of your building so you can get in safely. You can't do that with these horse cars or whatever they were calling them. Anyway, some nice pictures here, though, as ridiculous as they may be. I guess some of them, there's this poor unfortunate horse has got to pull it by himself, but others, he gets his buddy to help him pull. I guess depending on the company and the route and the size of the car, although these don't look much different in size from one another, these two, but okay. A single horse car on Seaton Village via Spadina Avenue, the Spadina bus. Horse cars of the Toronto Street Railway Company had no stove for heat in the winter. Instead, the floor was covered with pea straw to keep the passengers' feet a little warmer. It's not really going to work. It's just going to keep your feet out of the mud. And this is a 2-horse car with Toronto Street Railway Company. Conductor Jay Gibbons, driver Jay Badgerow at the North Toronto station at Cottingham Street, 1889. So this one's got a conductor and a driver. This guy's got to work it all by his lonesome, I guess. And here's a sightseeing car, and you got a whole bunch of guys here working this thing, I guess. In this image, we see an electrified streetcar operated by the Toronto and Mimico Railway. This open car was a double-decker, provided for a breezy ride along the Lakeshore Road near Sacred Heart Orphanage, now St. Joseph's Health Center in Sunnyside. Orphanage in the background there, I guess. All right, so then they finally electrify them, but I guess people still aren't used to them, so you got to put these catchers in front of them so you can catch people that aren't paying attention so they don't get hit by the train. Looks like they're finally getting some uniforms here. 1891, no employees had to work more than 10 hours a day, and no adult employee was to be paid less than 15 cents an hour for the first year, and 16 2/3 cents an hour after 1 year. How exactly do you get 2/3 of a cent? By the time this picture was taken, the wage had risen to 21.5 cents per hour. Oh, 1905. Yeah, you can never leave out the orphans. Yeah, that's exactly it, right? So now you're limited to the accessibility, because instead of it being an omnibus, which is basically just a big horse buggy that can carry 6 or 8 or 10 people, now you got a horse-drawn streetcar on rails. So, I mean, it can't pull over. You're restricted to staying on the rails, right? Anyway, links for the description, or for this website in the description below as well. Once again, toronto.ca. Some nice photos here. I think I grabbed a couple from this. And there's some cool maps of, over the years, how they expanded the routes, so on and so forth. Very, very interesting. So yeah, links for that below. So what do you say we look at some more photos, since how we were looking at some there already? I have not a huge folder here, but I don't know, just over a dozen photos. Again, just to have an idea of some of the shenanigans going on. So we'll look at those, and we'll take a quick break in the mid-show here, and I'll give you a sneak peek at your upcoming midweek. This coming Wednesday, vintage footage. It will not be footage of Toronto, though. I should have figured that out better, but it's fine. It's fine. There's lots of old-timey, old video footage of old-timey Toronto here on the channel. I created a playlist of the vintage footage. So all you got to do is go onto the channel, click on that if you're new here, The guy's pretty organized there on the channel, playlists and whatnot. So yeah, we'll look at some photos. We'll do the mid-show break with your sneak peek, and then when we come back, we'll look at some pedestrians running in front of traffic like they're a bunch of clowns, like they're a bunch of knuckleheads, knuckleheads, as a matter of fact. First, let's see what we got here. Oh, of course, right out of the gates. So you can see all the snow and ice. This is winter, obviously. You could at least, guy could throw a couple of blankets over the horses there, buddy. But anyway, these things apparently had no stoves, no heaters in them. So that would have sucked. Like, you might want to close the door, but it would suck for the driver too, you know? This really would have sucked. Definitely some photo manipulation going on here. It looks like somebody's come by with pen and ink and outlined some of this just to create a bit more of a contrast. So I don't know if this was done for a postcard or an advertisement or what, but they've obviously goofed around with it. You can see where they've either penciled in or at least outlined. So you got to kind of take this with a horses like sugar cubes, but this you got to take with salt. So a cube of salt, a salt cube. So here's a closer look at that single horse-drawn streetcar. Definitely looks like one guy working it here. And he's got a couple passengers in it. And this is, looks like it says Seton Village, Spadina Avenue. So yeah, there you go. High Park via Queen Street. Another winter shot. Again, no blankets on these poor beasts. We'll get an action shot here. This horse is just giving her. He's just giving her, bud. Maybe the kids are spooking the horse. I don't know. Awful lot of. You could see some reveal of, what is this? The sidewalk? Looks like the sidewalk. In service before 1891. Yeah, big deal. Seeing this could be cobblestone here, but I'm seeing what looks like a brick right here. Another brick here. So the roads are in shambles for some reason. Get out of the street now, you damn kids. Shouldn't you be in school? So there's the catcher, and there, yeah, see, they're showing you. See, now, if you're too dang stupid to do what your mama and daddy told you and look both ways before you cross the street, well, we got you covered here at the Toronto Municipal Railway. We'll just put these goalie nets from the ice hockey rink and strap them to the front of these things, because now we don't have the horses pulling it anymore. So we got to do something with the front of it. So we'll put this goalie net here. And it catches people, you see, so you don't get run-ed over. Yeah, there you go, title. A seat for the drunks. All right, drunkie, we'll give you a ride home. Oh, you don't have fare? You don't have the 5 cents or the 10 cents or whatever? Fine. You can sit up on the front on the ice hockey goalie net. He shoots, he scores right in the face. Here's that sightseeing one. You can get a closer look at it here. Now, if you've recently watched the channel, did a tour with Cousin Vinny of Heritage Park here in Calgary. It's like an old-timey amusement park set up like a circa 1900-ish prairie town. And in there, they have a railroad museum and a car museum. And on the last video upload of Heritage Park, we did a tour of the railroad museum and the car museum. And I'll give you a peek at the underneath of some of these because they had some of them there in the museum. So they're quite sophisticated with all the suspension and all of that. But to think that even with all that, at one point they needed a horse to pull it. To me, I just think that these were old world tech. They existed and were used on some level with some kind of energy pre-cataclysm. And in the most, in the most recent last reset, they were sort of dusted off, for lack of a better term, and put back into use and slowly reverse engineered and goofed with until they could get them kind of sort of running again. And in the interim, supposedly had horses pulling them. Yeah, no kidding, right? Jesse Nix in the box saying, I wonder how many horses it took to pull that. Well, this one apparently is electric. That's where this thing is. But they did have double-decker, sightseeing, horse-drawn streetcar trolleys as well. They had them in London. They may have had them in Toronto, because Toronto's known as the Queen City, don't you know? Jabberoo Joe in the box. Got your email reply, by the way. Thank you very much, my friend. Horse droppings made good goalposts in road hockey games. Yeah, or even the puck in the winter. Them road apples get frozen. Makes a good hockey puck there, eh? So now we're getting into the, this is 1895, supposedly. So we're getting into the electrified system now. Keep in mind, 1895, and, you can just see the background here, by the way, all kinds of shenanigans going on there. This is 1900. Look where you're going, buddy. Like, you're headed that way, but your head's turned this way. You're gonna get hurt. 1900 on Yonge Street, or looking. No, this is on King Street, looking from Yonge Street. So it looks somebody standing in the intersection taking this photo. Fantastic. This is about 1910-ish, if I'm not mistaken. You're starting to see some jalopies here now, but for the most part, it's still horse and buggy time. The streets are starting to get super congested now. Get out of the road, people. Got real busy. I mean, there's a huge difference between this and this. And we're only looking at about a 5-year time span. What in the Sam Steele is this thing? I've never seen nothing. I've seen, telegraph poles, telephone poles, electric poles with transformers. Sure. But what in the Sam Steele is this a sign for a hotel or something? No, it's a fur. This is a fur shop. Hats and furs. What in the Sam Steele is this? It's got to be an electric sign, I guess. Weird. This is on Pape Avenue at Bain Avenue. You can see here the juxtaposition, right? The electric streetcar trolley, but you still got horse and buggy. Bloor Street and Yonge Street. Right in the heart of what's, at least today anyways, is the modern financial district. What are you're gonna get out of the way, buddy? You're gonna how this guy is not about to be getting ready to be runded over right now, I'll never know. This paper boy, this kid here with his striped socks here is cutting her close too there. Oh, look, there we go. It's official. You got Yieldy Ladder Lean. Shout out to Douglas at UAP channel. Get the Yieldy Ladder Lean. Why do you just need a stupid wooden ladder prop? I mean, it's not under construction. It's obviously been here a long while. Looks like it's also been pencil and ink, pen and ink, highlighted photo of this building. I don't know. It's been manipulated. Maybe again for a postcard or something. I don't know. 1928. Bona fide construction in the back there, maybe. A lot more streamlined, more enclosed. Obviously, at this time now, they have electric lights and heat in them at this point. But, you know, not much different, really, than the old-timey ones. This is taken from a postcard, Young Street. I mean, I'm supposed to be looking at this stuff, but I always get distracted by, you know, stuff going on in the background. Hatch Liquors. Okay. The Bank of British North America building, 1915. You can see all the electric lines here, right? For the streetcars, this is a major intersection. You can see that this is brick or cobblestone street. So was it, you know, earlier when we were seeing dirt streets and mud, was it just a matter of clearing that crap away and then, you know, finding this infrastructure already pre-existing? And all they had to do was repair it and then add on to it when they wanted to extend the train line, you know, the streetcar trolley line, that is. Howdy, Marit. Marit from Hidden at Plain Sight in the box. Hello, good to see you. So this is Young Street. No date on this photo. I'm going to guess around between 05 and 1910. I'll say maybe 1910. Still, you have the open front on these cars. So, yeah, 1910 or earlier. Really built up already. Awfully fancy stuff going on here. This one also, I think, has been manipulated a little bit. I think they pen and ink traced around some of these people, maybe. You can see here, you know, Young Street, right? King Street, these major intersections, it's just chaos. Again, it's like people still at this point, and we're like, you know, 15, 20, 30 years into streetcar trolleys at this point. I mean, we'll get a better look at it when we actually look at the video, but these pedestrians are completely oblivious to, it seems. I think that's the last photo in that file. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeedy. Where are we at timing-wise? Perfect. Almost perfect. Coming up on the hour. So once again, thank you very much for joining me here, Frankie. New West Reset Live, episode 78. Thanks for shooting in and joining a fella here for the Torontonian Pedestrian Oblivion. Broadcasting simultaneously live on the HooTubes and over on the fighting platform, the Rumbling. Links for everything we've discussed and covered at the top of the show here, description below as per usual, as well as the guy's email and MeWe and Rumble and BitChute and all of that, and guy's PayPal. Ancient One saying these are awesome photos. Buildings look a lot like old buildings in my state of South Carolina. Yeah, well, and that's kind of the thing. Thank you, hippie. Thank you. It's kind of the thing, right? That just kind of seems to drive home the point. It doesn't matter if you go and you look at photos from the 1890s, some town or city in China, somewhere in North Carolina, or somewhere up here in Canada land, up in the frozen cold north, eh? You're going to see the same hallmarks, the same telltale tip-offs, if you will. The buildings look identical. Later on, immediately after, the regional resets, right? Because I don't think there was necessarily one big reset across the entire realm at the exact same time. Not the most recent one, anyway. I think it was smaller, more isolated areas of resets, all done within close proximity in terms of time period. Let's say within a decade of each other, right? Just throwing that out there. But then coming back and reclaiming and repopulating after everything's dug out and repaired from what I think was the most recent, which was a mudflood. Then they put their own cultural spin on the architectural details on the buildings, right? All of a sudden, China, they start getting, well, not even necessarily specifically China, but in Asia generally, they start getting the roof that slopes, but it kind of, it curves slopes, and then, now dragons and lions are decorating all over everything that's Chinese or Asian, and water lilies. You get designated with that now. Right? And Greece and Rome gets designated with like pillars and columns now, right? And the New World gets designated with log cabins now, that whole bit. But it's obviously a load of hooey. So I think it's a good time here to take a mid-show break, give you a sneak peek at your midweek coming up. As per usual, every Wednesday here, you're going to get vintage footage video. Old-timey black and white film footage that I can find, and I set it to music. I try to keep it Canadian content, and this one is actually not Canadian content in terms of the film footage, but the music is. And speaking of the music, it's a banger. So smoke them if you got them, and put on your ear goggles. It's a good one. And if you're just joining me, thank you very much. Maybe consider giving a guy one of these or one of these. It's fine. I'm not going to toss and turn about it. Thank you to everybody who has already subscribed and shared. Appreciate it. And if you're watching this thing after the fact, after the live, thank you for your support as well. Greatly appreciate it. And for all of you that are here right now on the live, thank you. Thanks for taking time out of your weekend and winding down your weekend with me here on Sunday Fun Day. All right. So let's get into this thing here, shall we? Let me just cue this up. And this is the title of this video is Midways and Sideshows. It's footage of the Midway from Coney Island and then sideshows from various circuses. The footage is between 1900 and 1930. And again, smoke them if you got them. Put your headphones on and turn that thing up to 11, because it's a good one. And we'll see you back here in about just shy of 5 minutes time. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Cheers. Enjoy. All right, that's enough of that. And we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Once again, Frankie here, New West Reset. Thank you for shooting in, joining a fella here for another one, another live stream, New West Reset Live, episode 78. Here today on this Sunday fun day, August 11th. Just a little bit past 5 p.m. local time. That's mountain time here in Calgary. In Purdy, Alberta, up in Canadian land. Thanks everybody for joining me on the HooTubes, on the Rumble. Links for everything in the description below. Angel Dreams is here from Northern California. Yay, I've been to California two times. Didn't spend a lot of time in Northern Cali, though. A little bit in Eureka and Fresno, but mostly down in and around San Diego and LA, of course, doing the touristy thing, right? You got to go to the Universal Studios and you got to zip across the border into Tijuana, señorita, señora. Right? That's not at all how they talk down there. I don't know why I did a Speedy Gonzalez voice, but, you know, it's more like, órale, vato, ¿cómo estamos? But, you know, anyway. Yes, thank you, Toidle. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great band I think out of Vancouver. They were kind of sort of a one-hit wonder called Copyright, ironically enough. Cousin Vinny in the box. Friday afternoons still don't feel right, Frankie. Yeah, switching from. I used to do the live show. If you're new here, I used to do the live show on Fridays. Switched it to Sunday because I don't work Sundays and Fridays. My schedule was all over the place. Sometimes I couldn't do the live, so I'd have to reschedule anyway. But the irony being that the last 3 Fridays I've had off. So there it is. But anyways, good to see you there, Cousin Vinny. Always a pleasure to have Cousin Vinny in the box, joining Frankie Fingers over here.
So now you know what I'm talking about with the whole New West Reset thing.
No.
What?
No.
What I said about Frankie Fingers.
Oh.
That Frankie Fingers
yeah.
and New West Reset are the same.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, she don't stand no cheating. She don't stand none of that.
It's too big for its britches, you say. It is a big state. It is, indeed. I will definitely second you on that one. Yeah, there was some racy stuff in that video. Well, because, you know, you get that was the thing about going to the circus or going to the fair, or even back in the day with the Calgary Stampede here, right? The big rodeo and the big midway, right? You get your midway rides, right? Whether it's a permanent thing like, you know, Coney Island used to be or whatever, or whether it's an annual temporary setup for, you know, a week or 10 days or whatever, right? Like out in Toronto at the C&E, or here in Calgary for the Stampede. You get your midway rides, right? Your roller coasters and whatnot. Maybe some games of chance where you end up spending $30 to knock some milk jugs over with a baseball to win a stuffed animal that you could have bought for $5. But anyway. There's always that sideshow just off the midway, right? Where they had the freaks. Right, the bearded lady, the fat guy, the wolf boy, and the geeks that would do the sword swallowing and all that. And even, you know, I'm not too long in the tooth now. I'm 54 years old, but I remember going to a fair in Quebec, and they had the freaks and the circus sideshow. Well, it wasn't a circus, it was a fair. But they had the sideshow off the main drag of the midway. And that's where they had all that creepy stuff. And even here, after moving to Calgary, Alberta in 1980 from Montreal, Quebec, the first couple of years of the Stampede, they had that, again, just off the main midway. They had the freaks. You know, They had the jars of, you go into a tent, you pay like $3 or whatever, right, to get your ticket to go to the tent. And you look at the pickled pugs in the jars, and you look at the pickled two-headed calf that was born in Montana back in 1972 or whatever, right? So yeah, that you get some racy stuff. You also get a little bit of the ladies hoisting up their skirts to show you their britches. You know, pay a little extra for that in a certain tent. So yeah, that most of the sideshow, freak show stuff from that video was from 1900-ish. And then the Midway footage was more so from the 30s. So yeah, Ray Liotta, rest in peace, Ray Liotta. One of the greats, very intense actor. I really liked Ray Liotta. He didn't always pick the best movies, but you know, it is what it is. But the stuff that he was good in, he was really good in. I like Ray Liotta. And of course, I love Goodfellas, one of my favorite movies. As violent as it may be, and as much as it might, quote unquote, glamorize organized crime, it's a good flick. Scorsese, you can't go wrong with Scorsese, you know. And then you get De Niro in there. You talking to me? Are you talking to me? Huh? Are you talking to me? Then of course you got to get Joe Pesci in there. He's great too. You get Joe Pesci over here, huh? He's in there. He's a little short bastard, but he's a little tough guy. He's a little tough little mutt, huh? I didn't expect to become a freak, but here I am. We're different kinds of freaks than I think what we were seeing in that footage there. That lady that put her arms behind her back and interlocked her fingers and then was able to pop her shoulders out and swing her. Yeesh. Just yeesh. You know what I mean? Yeesh. Anyway, great song, great video footage. So that'll be coming up Wednesday for your vintage footage. And of course, the new time slot for Boots on the Ground is now every Friday. All right, so let's get into this now here, shall we? Let's quit messing around. Get down to the nitty-gritty. The Torontonian Pedestrian Oblivion. So the footage that I've got here is from between 1917 and 1940. It's about 13 and a half minutes, but of course I'm going to be pausing it so we can comment on it and all that good stuff. All right, so let me just cue it up here. All right. Well, there you go. Well, yes. Well, isn't that always the way, right? Isn't that always the way? Thank you, Hippie. Yes, please go and check out. Not like he needs any help from me. It's more like the other way around. I could use some help from Martin and the big boys, eh? I've been doing this a while now, eh? But the HooTubes doesn't like me. So, you know, they got me in the whole shadow band thing, I think. Oh, that's fine. Whatever. I'm going to keep plugging away at it. Keep doing the boots on the ground, the vintage footage, and the live streams. Keep on keeping on. So I think you can hear me okay. Let me chat here. I don't think I have any music or sound. Oh, I know that. Thank you. Thank you, Hippie. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's right. We do prefer you here as well. Absolutely. All right, so while this is rolling, can you hear me okay? Please just let me know real quick in the box there if you can hear me, as these mad fools are making a mad dash to get there's going to be another train coming along in a second. You take it easy. They're pushing and shoving each other away. 5 by 5. Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Sig's here. Howdy, howdy. Welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for shooting in there, eh, bud? All right, let's continue on. Let's watch these fools. It's like it's my last chance to get on a train. See, I told you there was another one coming right along and pushing ladies out of the way. So much for being a gentleman. Pushing a little kid out of the way. Pushing ladies out of the way. Hanging off the side of it like a bunch of wild apes. Just take it easy, folks. You can see now there's plenty of trains. You don't need to be acting like a bunch of baboons. See, now they got the people catchers on the front of these ones. Yeah, like, you know, there's a train. You can see when in the old photos that we looked at, when they take a photo down Yonge Street or King Street or Queen Street or any street in any city in the realm that had these electric streetcar trolleys, the trams, whatever you want to call them. You could see when they take the photo, the long photo shot down the street or the avenue, that there's, 3 or 4 of these things in a row. Like another one's coming. It's going to be there in like 2 minutes. Like, take it easy. These things were more efficient than modern day subways and cars, electric, like light rail transit cars they have now. But no, got to push the women's and children's out of the way so I can get on the dang train. Just love the old jalopies and the old trucks going by in the background, and still seeing horse and buggy too at the same time. So it's that crazy overlap period again where you've got cars and trucks and electric streetcar trams, but still horse and buggy. See, there you go. Not everybody could afford a car, cars back, $1,500. Guy almost bailed his bike into the streetcar. Did you see that? Was he drunk? Let's roll that back again. You can see a guy on his bicycle just as a young lady gets off the streetcar here in the next frame or in the next clip. Right here. Watch this guy on his bicycle. Whoa, hey, whoa there. See? Fixing the die there. And where are all these children's parents that they're just letting them run around in the streets beside these streetcars, clamoring on board while the train is still in motion? Cars and jalopies whipping by on either side, horses and buggies whipping by. You get these little kids running around. Again, just shoving people out of the way. Here's another knucklehead with his bike. That is so weird. Jabberoo Joe saying, I still can't watch on YouTube. I'm watching on Rumble. But I can't type on Rumble, so I'm typing here. It's weird. That is very strange. That is very, very strange. Sellout is in the box. Howdy. Welcome, welcome. Well, and that's the thing is I think a lot of times, they're just jumping on as the train pulls away and they're riding a block or two and they're not even paying a fare. It seems that way anyways. And obviously they're very well aware that the camera's there, so they're goofing and mugging and clowning for the camera. But I still think that, if the camera were not there, it's how it would be. It's busy rush hour in Canada's biggest city, Doesn't matter if it's, the 1890s or the 1920s. Yeah, well, that's the things. Yeah, maybe. Toronto's a big city like New York was. It was one of those big cities that they did have to round up a lot of the so-called street kids and orphans, the odd fellows, and they load them onto the orphan trains and ship them out here to the prairies to work on farms and stuff. But the thing is, while people are clamoring to get on and off and dumb kids are riding their bikes beside this thing, there's cars whipping by and people are just blissfully unaware that they're inches away from getting hit by a car or a train or a horse and buggy or some kid biffing into them on his bicycle. But thank goodness we got those people catchers on the fronts of these things. Just take those hockey goalie nets and bolt them onto the front. Just hanging off of that thing. It's a good thing they don't go that fast. What if it's whipping around a corner at, 20 miles an hour? Go flying off that thing. Bunch of bozos. Note, by the way, the street, the either brick or cobblestone streets there too, Is that Al Triano? Must be Al. Al Triano? It's not AI Triano. It could be, but I think it's Al Triano. Welcome. Sounds Italian. Buongiorno. Buonasera. Yeah, this is what they called them, right? Street urchins. Oh, for sure. For sure. They hang off the trains and they pile on top of the trains. They get on the train with like a chicken or a goose tucked under their arm or something. Yeah, because, absolutely. People never really change. Absolutely. Sì, okay. Grazie. Buonvenuto. It's just running and jumping and hanging on to the side. That one guy's not even on the car. He's hanging off the back of it. Showing off for the camera, no doubt. There's a little kid hanging off the back. Where is your mother and father, kid? All right, now we jump into a little bit ahead here. This is in the teens now. Look at this. People standing in the middle of the roads because they know if I stand right here, this is the Goldilocks zone. If I stand right here, cars, trains, and horses and buggies won't hit me. Cars cutting off the trains, cutting in front of the trains, people dashing, and the 5 Ds of dodgeball here in the streets of Toronto. Duck, dodge, dive, dip, and dodge. Just incredible. Okay, now you do see that there is one guy there. That's actually a traffic cop. So he's actually directing the traffic. So he's telling them, when the streetcars can go, when cars can turn, go straight, all of that. But you just got people zipping in and out, running across everywhere. You can see all down the avenue. It's just complete chaos. Utter chaos. Well, that's the thing, is that I've actually tried to find wrecks, and I haven't as of yet. And I've spent hours and hours poring over hours and hours of video footage. So perhaps something like this, if there was a wreck, they would have deleted the wreck, or they would have clipped it out and put it in a different reel, maybe. Now, this is in the late fall, early winter. It's either wet snow or rain. And this just looks awful. Oh, yeah, just cut right in front, buddy. Don't worry. Look at these fools inching. Let me just roll it back just a scotch. You get these fools right here inching their cars over the streetcar tracks because I got to be the next guy to the next red light. Well, there's no red lights yet. To the next traffic cop tell me to stop. Jaywalkers running across the street. Forget the fact that the surface is wet, slippery. Don't worry, you're not going to slip and fall in front of the train or anything. You're fine, idiot. Completely oblivious. This guy's just lighting a cigarette, strolling across. At a certain point, the cop isn't really even directing traffic. He's just kind of just standing there. It's complete chaos, man. And at this point, you'd think, well, I guess, like Kathy said earlier, right? Just people never really change. Or no, it was Ancient One that said people never really change. But yeah, still like jaywalking and zipping and ducking and dodging traffic. Look at this guy's got 2 mules pulling this freaking thing through downtown Toronto. 6 says, I grew up 10 blocks from the restaurant Copacabana in the Goodfellas movie. I shoveled the snow in the driveway in front for $10. Wow. That's a pretty good claim to fame, actually. The place is still there? Huh. Interesting. Oh, yeah. I know. I mean, this is tame. I mean, we'll get into it. We're gonna have to. I mean, a guy only has so much old-timey footage like this of Canada. So eventually, gonna have to expand beyond the Canadian borders for episodes of this pedestrian oblivion. And look into the U.S. and other cities, right? London, Paris, and German cities as well. There's stuff out there, absolutely. But yeah, this pales in comparison to some of the other parts of the world. It's pretty. Yeah, it's nothing by comparison for sure, except for this clown with his mules and his cart. There's another horse and cart or mules going by there. I'm surprised they were still allowed on the roads at this point. I mean, I guess as providing you could go a certain speed, I guess the cops would let you take your mules and cart on the road. I don't know. You know who I actually feel sorry for are the trolley or streetcar conductors, the drivers, the guys that are operating the thing. They must be white knuckling it all the live long day. You got the Grapes of Wrath coming up here, and these Okies from Muskogee with all their truck loaded up with crud. And by the way, these trains didn't just stop on the dime. Like, they weigh a few tons. So if the vehicle in front of the train jams on his brakes, I mean, that train is going to smuck into the back of that vehicle. It's got to. Castle in the pasture, in the box. Howdy, howdy. Welcome. Says, what's up, y'all? Well, we're just checking out some Torontonian pedestrian oblivion. Just the congested streets of Toronto from back in the old days when people were they just seem to not be fully aware of the fact that, hey, man, like, don't ride your bike in between cars and the train there like that there now. Yeah, Scott Pike in the box says road rage. Yeah, these streetcar drivers, they got home after working, because we read at the top of the show before the mid-show break that, these guys were working 10-hour shifts. Okay, which, okay, hell, I work a lot of 10-hour shifts, and I have in the past and probably will continue to. But if these guys are working 50, 60-hour work weeks where it's like this all the time, first thing they do when they get home is they're having a stiff drink. Ooh, got some color film here now. This is in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken. Just post. This is post WW2, maybe. But you can see, even with technology and color film and all of that. Get out of the way. Jeez, those two almost got hit. You see how it cut there? Maybe they got hit. I don't know. But anyway, I was about to say, even with the modern days and color film, they still just don't know. They're cramming themselves in like sardines, pushing people out of the way to get into this thing, just like they were in the original footage going way back. You know, some of that older footage was from 1917, and now we're into the 40s here. Like this big bright red steel train on the road is coming at you. Like, get out of the way. Yeah, I mean, maybe not so much at this point. It's now they're just now rats in the rat race at this point, really. I think more than anything. But definitely in some of the earlier footage that we were seeing in the teens and 20s, it's like, yeah, they're just trying to figure out, like, where do I go? When do I go? What, how's all this work? Starting to see some buses come into the picture here now, too, which is the demise of the streetcar trolley. Just a couple minutes left, by the way, in this thing. It's hard to ignore all the beautiful buildings in the background, by the way, too, with all the columns and the pillars and big arched windows and doorways. So we still have a couple of the old styles of streetcar trams on here, some of the newer ones, and then we've got buses and cars, but we still have knuckleheads on bicycles risking their lives, and people running in front of the cars and trains. Yeah, it's like they still just don't even know, it seems. Oh, really? If I hit that thing, I'll be deleted? Yes, you will. That train smucks into you, you're a goner. Your ass is grass there, eh, bud? At least now with multiple entrances and exits, they're not necessarily as much shoving people out of the way to be the first to get in. Oh yeah, this is a nice way to wrap up this thing. that horse and buggy. Look at the cars and trains whipping by. I just got to roll that back again because I think this just kills me. This guy on that horse and buggy coming down here. Look at the speed in which the cars and the trains are traveling. And then look at that horse just giving her to try to keep up with the flow of traffic. Right in this next clip as they're going under the underpass there. How did I end up downtown here? I got to get the hell out of here. You're about 20 years behind schedule with your milk delivery there, old timer. And the traffic is just whipping by. He's there with a horse buggy. Yikes. More kids on bicycles, messing and mugging for the camera. Get out of the way, kid. You're going to get run it over because you're paying attention to the cameraman instead of the big train behind you. And there you go. There it is. Torontonian pedestrian Oblivion. It's what's Michael saying? Carmichael in the box is saying, if you make a video of modern pedestrians versus pedestrians of old, I don't think you'll see it. Yeah, it's true. People are even more out of it now, right? Because of, well, let's face it, because of these things, right? People got their faces in these all the time, not watching where they're going, not looking up. They step out into traffic because they think they've got the cross, the light to cross or whatever. There's a break in traffic, like cars could be whipping by, right? And they can hear, but they're not looking because they're looking in their phone. So they can hear the cars going, whoosh, driving by. Then there's a break in the traffic. They don't hear the cars going by, so they think, oh, I have the light. And they just step out without looking up. And then another car comes along and schmuck, delete it. Just delete it. Kathy says, I turn now. Good luck, everybody. Yeah, just that's it. That's it. I'm turning. If you're in the way, then you're in the way. I just I'm constantly baffled, bewildered, and befuddled by people. It's like we shut off our brains and our situational awareness goes right down the shitter when we're in traffic downtown in some congested metropolitan area. Didn't matter if it was 1917 or 19, what was the oldest of that footage? Again, let me just look at it again real quick here. 1917, 1940 was the most recent. Oh, that color footage was from 1940. Okay, well. Oh, cheers, Scott. Scott Pike in the boxes. Thanks, Frankie. Nice to hang out. Well, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you shooting in. But I think early on, it was the fact that people were just not clued in. They were getting used to, you had a lot of people moving into the cities or being moved into the cities. You had a lot of these newly founded cities. You had, company cities, railroad cities that just like seemed to spring up, and then they moved a bunch of people in, and there's a Ford factory here, so you all work for Ford. Or, the I don't know, the chocolate factory here. So we're just going to build a town around this factory, and everybody that lives in the town works for the factory. So it's like they're coming from elsewhere, and they're not used to the streetcars and the horses and buggies, and later, jalopies and automobiles whipping by. But then you get to a certain point, and people are out of it for different reasons. They're out of it because now, once you get into the 20s, 30s, 40s, they've kind of bought into the whole, keeping up with the Joneses rat race of it all. The hustle and bustle of life in the big city and whatnot. So they're so lost in their own thoughts of, trying to make it in the cruel modern world that they were thrust into a generation earlier. So they're just not paying attention to their surroundings. And now in modern times, again, people's personal devices. Even if you're just listening to music with earbuds in, you got to be careful, man. Look both ways before you cross the street now. Doesn't matter if it's 1917 or 1924 or 2024. Be careful. Sheesh. Castle in the Pasture says, love from Iowa. Y'all, thanks, Frankie. Well, thank you. From Iowa. Fantastic. Never been to Iowa. So where are we at here? We're coming up on about 20 minutes to the hour. So I think I'm getting ready to wind this thing down here very shortly. My pal Bill is here. He snuck in earlier. I didn't see you there. So the reset images, nobody was there in those photos. And then there's this. Well, yeah, it's like very sudden. And especially in, certain cities, it seems, right? There's certain cities that seemed like they were almost built, and then the people were loosed upon the city. You know what I'm saying? They're coming in droves by train. But pre-railroad, I think some of the cities, they were already there and were refurbished, right? Uncovered. They were founded. They were found. John Levi covered this recently in not his most recent video from earlier Sunday, at least for me. But I think last week and the week before he touched on it. But where the elders of the Mormon church there in in I have a mental hiccup in what state is in Utah. Excuse me, down in Utah there. And the elders saying, like there's towns out there where there's towns, but nobody lives in them. So we'll just go into these towns and we'll just inhabit them. So. So yeah, I think you get a lot of people being moved around as per the agenda with orphan trains and whatnot, right? Why do you think every little backwater town or hamlet has a chamber of commerce? It's because they put it out there, hey, come move to our little town. And for whatever reason, we got a flour factory here, so we got good, stable jobs and economy, or we have low crime, or we have this or that or the other, or we have, the Sweetwater Creek here, and, whatever, right? Going back to the 1880s, 1870s, 1860s, these towns would advertise, look how great our little town is. Come and move here, bring your family here, bring your business here. So again, as mentioned, some of these were company towns, some of them were railroad towns or whatever. But I think some of these places were found. So you ship people out there and, there's horses and buggies whipping by and electric streetcar, first horse-drawn streetcar trolleys, as ridiculous as that is. Then later electric streetcars whipping by, 1890s, 1900s. If any of you've just gone through the whole indoctrination system, right? Don't forget you have your World's Fairs. Up here in Canada, we had our Dominion exhibitions, right? Annually, each city in Canada would host our Canadian versions of World Fairs. Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, what have you, Hamilton. And they have these pavilions where you go to learn about, oh, that's what the Chinese people do. Oh, that's what Germany is like. Oh, now I get it. That's what people in, you go to the human zoos and you see, oh, that's what the Filipino people are like. That's crazy! So yeah, you have these stages of people being oblivious. They're oblivious because they're being newly introduced into this thing. So they don't know what's going on. Then later on, they're indoctrinated and they're caught up in the whole rat race, keeping up with the Joneses, the roaring 20s and whatnot, or the post-war boom and all of this. And then once you get into modern times like today, the people are just checked out mentally of their surroundings. I mean, I don't often take the train, but when I do take the train, if it's just too far for me to walk, I'm going to take the train. And just everybody on the train. No one's looking out the window at the scenery going by. Calgary's a pretty beautiful city. We've got the Rocky Mountains in the background. We got 2 rivers that flow through the city. Got a lot of trees and hills. It's lovely here. Lovely. But people aren't looking out the window. They're not chit-chatting amongst themselves. Hello, neighbor. How's your day? Or even just, it's beauty weather we're having today there, eh, bud? Nope, everybody's just got their faces buried in these things. So everybody's still clueless, still oblivious. It's just a different means to the same end, I think, right? Yeah, that's right. Isn't that a Styx song? The Grand Illusion? Oh, heck, you know what? Before I shut her down for the day, I'm going to share one more video. It's about Toronto. Earlier on, I mentioned the Beastie Boys. Somebody in the chat, can't remember who it was, might have been Kathy, said, "Ooh, I like the Beastie Boys." Well, then, hey, kids, you like that hippity-hop music? How about I share one more video here before I go? And it's about Toronto. The footage is Toronto. The song is about Toronto. And it's that Canadian hippity hop music there, kids. It's from the 90s, I think, or early 2000s, by a gentleman out of Toronto named Cardinal Official. It's about 4.5 minutes. The song's called Bacardi Slang. And this is some street scenes of Toronto from 1917 to 1935. So, yeah, it's some Canadian hip hop. 4.5 minutes. Smoke them if you got them. Because everything is all right. Everything turning crisp, man, you know? Coming from the T-Dot, man, you know?
Silver, turn it up. Yeah. We're gonna put you on to something brand new now. Nah, man. Yeah, Cardinal. Yeah, we don't say you know what I'm saying. T-Dot says you don't know. We don't say, hey, that's the breaks. We say, yo, so we go. We don't say you get one chance. We say you better rip the show before bottles start flying and you running for the dough. We talk about cutting and hitting skins. We talking about beat that face. T-Dot to eat your food before y'all cats say grace. Your cats is steady saying word. My cats is steady yelling. Half the time we talking about more times. We don't even know what more times means. More times we rock pressure. More times we come correct. More times y'all think it's the hot shit. Y'all haven't heard nothing yet. Differently. Still, you know, the circle getting ill, you know. Step on the wrong ballot booth, you might get glitch, you know. So every time you walk through the dance, tell her, yo, excuse me. Telling the Juby I like her style, she's talking about abuse me, use me. Show me how the T-Dot rolls. My style's off the thermostat, plus I'm coming from the cold, yo. What the shit? My baker's in the street, throwing that slang each and every single time we meet. What the shit? My lady's looking hot, screw face, kissing, keep representing the T-Dot. Party not rock the party, and T-Dot drinking Bacardi, and Cardi drinking Bacardi, and T-Dot rocking the party, and niggas jumping the violin, and ladies showing them smiling, and everybody knows it's the T-Dot. So when we singing about the girls, we singing about the yeah. You're talking about, say that one more time, we talking about. You're talking about that is a punk, we talking about that, yo, it's a boss. For the kids that think I'm coming with it, brother, just watch me. The shoe is called a crep, a big party is a fet. You're talking about watch where you're going, we talking about mind where you're we backing up 2 for a Guinness, we ain't messing with my wet. And if you running out of liquor, the bar might get wet. You're talking about, yo, that girl's hype, we like she's the bun down. Y'all say a DJ battle, we say clash with 2 songs. We rock the hottest, no matter how much it costs. You're talking about, yeah, son, we talking about, you lock it off. Wheel out and take it from the top and just flash up on the lighter. Watch the dance rock. Cardinal's gonna show you how the T-Dot rolls. My style's off the thermostat. Plus I'm coming from the cold. Yo. What the shit? My baker's in the street throwing that slang each and every single time we meet. What the shit? My lady's looking hot. Screw face kissing, keep representing the T-Dot. Cardinal rock the party and T-Dot drinking Bacardi, and Cardi drinking Bacardi, and T-Dot rocking the party, and niggas jumping and violin, and ladies showing and smiling, and everybody knows it's the T-Dot. Yo, instead of your boys, we talking about the mind them. When we talking about your brethren, yo, we talking about your friend. When you say the club's over, yo, we say the jam done. When you thinking about the West, you thinking about Red One. Big ups and salutations to the Figure 4 crew. When you're saying she's a chicken, she's a skeptic about too. When you talking about a thug, we talking about a shatter. When you think you got the lock, T-Dot coming much hotter. Y'all think we all Jamaican when enough man are Trinis, Bajans, Grenadians, and a whole heap of Haitians, Guyanese, and all of the West Indies combined to make a T-Dot, O-Dot. One of a kind, Earth set, we born corn, that means they born. When we say hell no, that means yo, that no make it. Look me in the eye and tell me y'all ain't sold. My style's off the thermostat, plus I'm coming from the cold, yo. What the shit? My baker's in the street throwing that slang each and every single time we meet. What the shit? My ladies looking hot, screw face, kissing teeth, representing the T-Dot. Cardi dot rock the party, and T-Dot drinking Bacardi, and Cardi drinking Bacardi, and T-Dot rocking the party, and nigga dumping and wildin', and ladies showing and smiling, and everybody knows it's the T-Dot.
All right, that's enough of that noise there. Too old for that music, you say, huh? Well, I don't know. Sid's twerking, so that's some Canadian hip hop from Cardinal Official. Yes, the West Indies, all the West Indies and Caribbean islands. There's lots of island people, West Indies people living in Toronto in the T-Dot, the T.O. dot, Toronto, Ontario. Yeah, just something a little different, you know. I'm not completely adverse to, you know, the hippity hop music that the kids like so much, you know. Once in a while. Although I kind of rock the more old school stuff, you know, Run DMC, stuff like that. But, you know, hey, you know, this is actually already pretty old school. Cardinal Official, that's going back already. So, by the way, it's, you know, with the accent, he does have he has a bit of an accent, you know. He speaks a little accent. So, you know. But by the way, whenever I upload a vintage footage video on Wednesday, if there's lyrics to the song, I'll always include lyrics in the description below. So that one's going to be coming up as a midweek vintage footage video, probably coming up sometime in the future. So if you had trouble understanding what he was saying, links or lyrics will be in the description below that video, as are all of the vintage footage videos. But yeah, that one, I just thought that was fun. And a lot of repeat footage of what we saw for the Pedestrian Oblivion portion of the show. But as mentioned earlier, there's only so much that footage out there. It's starting to get to be as rare as hen's teeth. Find some of that stuff, you know what I'm saying? What's this? Hippie says, I wonder how you knew if it was your own car. They're all the same color. Well, initially, yeah, they were. They were all just black. For Ford. When GM came out, GM, I think, started offering different colors, like sort of a burgundy and a deep, dark green and a sort of a navy blue, as well as black. I think they offered 3 or 4 colors. So then Ford was like, great. Now I got to do that too. Thanks a lot, General Motors. Maybe that's it. I'm old, but I'm young at heart. No, I listen to old fogey music. Let's face it. I listen to blues from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So, you know, I'm not that young at heart, I guess. I think the other thing too is, yeah, you had your registration numbers on your vehicles, but also, as cousin Vinny and I found out when we went to the car museum at Heritage Park there a while back, you know, you could buy your base model of your car from the dealership or from the factory, much like today. But then there was different add-ons, different options that you can buy. But not all the options were available through your dealership or through the factory. There were some companies that manufactured options for different cars, makes and models, that you could buy aftermarket to customize your vehicle. I guess still much like today, right? So if you wanted a certain kind of horn, you know, ooga horn, you know, you could either get one on your Ford as an option from Ford. But if you wanted a fancy brass horn or something, then you could get one aftermarket and have it installed on your car. So you could customize your car too. Yeah, how did the women tell which man was there? So he's the guy with the suit, with the mustache, and the hat. Kathy says she can tell by his smell. uh, yeah, the men with the top hats. Yeah, a lot of that. Well, I mean, there were certain hats that did fall in and out of fashion. Now I'm gonna semi-dox myself here now. Now I work for my community grocery store here now and have for a number of years. But prior to that, I was in the clothing business. I used to be a merchandiser, and prior to that, I was a salesman. And I sold menswear, and it was high-end menswear for some highfalutin, snooty clothing stores that sold designer suits. You know, the Hugo Boss, the Giorgio Armani, the Canali, the Brunello Cucinelli, the Ermenegildo Zegna, Tom Ford, all of that stuff. You know, you want to go in there and buy a shirt and tie? That'll be $400, buddy. No, I didn't want a suit. I wanted a shirt and tie. Yeah, that's how much it's going to cost you for a shirt and tie in this place. It's going to cost you about $250 for a shirt and about $150 for a silk tie. So that's the type of thing I was dealing with. And the other thing that we sold there was made to measure clothing, where you come in and get measured for a custom made bespoke suit instead of buying off the rack. And it was a series of fittings, up to 8 different fittings before your final suit was ready to be picked up and finished, and you walk out of the joint and it's yours. And in the process of getting a tailor-made, custom-made, bespoke, made-to-measure suit, you pick your own fabric, you pick your own lining, you pick your own what are called findings, right? The buttons and all of that sort of thing. You want deer antler buttons? Yep. All right, there you go. You want wooden buttons? Sure. Okay. That kind of thing. You want brass zipper, stainless steel zipper on your trousers, all of that stuff. You want buttons inside the waistband of your trousers so you can wear suspenders or braces? Sure. Yeah, we'll do that. Pick out the inside lining. You want a bright purple lining inside your suit? Sure. You want candy stripes in it? Sure. You want paisley? Sure. We had literally, I'm not even exaggerating, we literally had thousands of fabrics to choose from. And some of these fabric patterns, in terms of Prince of Wales check, Tattersall check, window pane check patterns, and a lot of these suit fabrics and sport coat fabrics that men could choose from, where they literally flip through books with 3-inch by 3-inch samples of the fabric. And some of these fabrics were still loomed on the same looms in the same fabric mills in Europe that they had been for 100 years, 150 years. So a man could walk in there and go, I like that fabric. I want a suit made out of this fabric. And it's the exact same fabric pattern made on the same looms in the same factory, in the same city, in the same country, somewhere over in Europe that it was 150 years ago. And we're talking browns, navy blues, different shades of grays, different shades of taupes and olive greens for trousers and sport coats. Brass buttons with anchors on them for your navy blazer, you know, that kind of stuff. So when we look in these old black and white photographs, to some extent it looks like all the men are wearing black suits. But I would argue that for the most part, hardly any of them were wearing black suits because a solid black suit was your most expensive fabric. Black fabric dye is very expensive because it takes more of the other colors combined to make black for your black fabric dye than it does to make blue or purple or green or whatever, which is more costly. So I would argue that a lot of these men are wearing dark gray or brown or navy colored suits or sport coats and blazers, and the ladies' dresses are of those same colors as well, and probably not a lot of black. But my question is, how did they keep their whites so white? Because we're seeing a lot of white shirts on the men, and we're seeing a lot of beautiful white blouses on the women. And even the underpinnings under the women's skirts or dresses, right? Their slips and whatnot underneath are all white. Your undergarments back then were generally white wool, well, off-white wool, linen. If you were lucky, cotton or silk, but you had to be pretty highfalutin. But even still, with all the dirt and mud streets that we see everywhere, all the horse poop that we see everywhere, and people doing a lot more walking and riding bicycles and riding horses back then than they do now, their clothing would get filthy. How did these people keep their whites so white? Because even up until the 1940s, a lot of houses in big cities in Canada and the United States did not have indoor plumbing. My daddy, not my granddaddy, mind you, but my daddy, when he was a kid, up until he was about 10 years old, they went in the privy, in the outhouse, outside the farmhouse, because they did not have indoor plumbing on their farm. And my dad was born in 1948. So we're talking in the 50s, he was still going to an outhouse to use a bathroom. In the middle of the night, they just used chamber pots. You get up in the middle of the night because you got to tinkle. You just tinkle in the chamber pot. And then in the morning, you toss it down the hole in the outhouse. So not everybody had access to hot and cold running water. Especially, 1890s, 1900, 1910. Sure, your house might have electricity and you might have water, but it must have been tough. I mean, it's a lot of scrubbing on washboards, using a lot of bleach or like that powdered bleach stuff, right? Like that borax, 40 mule team borax and stuff like that. And the thing is that people's clothing then was not like today, right? You get what you pay for. Now, to a certain extent, you get to a certain high price point and the suits become delicate, right? You get into the $6,000 to $8,000 range for made-to-measure custom-made suits with really, really soft, light fabrics. You got to be careful. Those are not hardy suits. Those are your special occasion suits for highfalutin rich people. But your average person might own one or maybe two suits. You might have a light suit and a dark suit. The light suit would be a lighter fabric. The dark suit would be a heavier fabric. You can wear them seasonally. Then maybe he might have one sport coat and a couple pairs of trousers. That is it. You might have 3-4 shirts. That is it. But today people have closets full of clothing, right? But back then, your worsteds and your woolens, right? It didn't matter if it was a smooth finish to your suit or if it was sort of where you could really see the weft and the warp of the weave. You know what I mean? Like a tweed sport coat or a herringbone sport coat, for example. All that stuff was a lot more hardy. People weren't buying these like super 100 weight cloths back then. They probably weren't even weaving them back then because they probably couldn't back then. So your suit would last you, I mean, you were, let's say, a young man, 18, 20 years old. Let's say you move off the farm into the big city because you got yourself a job as, I don't know, a barrister. So you get yourself a suit. That suit's probably going to last you the rest of your freaking life. If not, it's going to last you 20 years. So the fabric was a lot thicker and hardier, but the colors were the same. You could still buy those thick, heavier weight fabrics today. It's just they've augmented that now with new technology. So now you get these really lightweight, silky fabrics. Like the wool suits don't even feel itchy now, and they feel light as a feather now. But a gentleman would have a brush, a lint brush. And it was literally a brush, like you see umpires brushing off home plate, the baseball game, that kind of brush, like a bristly brush. He would brush off, the shoulders and the elbows, and if you got like dust and whatever, you would brush off your suit or your sport coat and your hat and your vest coat and all of that. Maybe you take your hat in to get steamed. Maybe you get your sport coat or your suit, take it in to get steamed. But that's not dry cleaning. That's just having it steamed, getting the wrinkles out of it, kind of freshening it up a little bit. But I guess that's where the stereotypical, Chinese laundry comes from. Because again, in every small town or big city back then, you had a Chinatown, and every Chinatown had a quote-unquote Chinese laundry. I mean, say what you will, but I'm not even joking. 3 blocks from me is a laundromat. It's operated by an Asian couple. They're from China. They're in their 60s. They have the laundromat there. They do dry cleaning there, and they do, basic tailoring. You need your trousers, the bottom of your trousers hemmed. They'll do it. And they have drop-off service there at the laundry, too. So you could, if I wanted to, I had 2 loads of laundry, I could just drop them off there and pick them up in 2 days. So I guess there's something to the stereotype of the Chinese laundry. We see it in all the old-timey movies. You read about it in the old shoot-'em-up Western dime novels back in the Wild West. To me, that would be the toughest part about the clothing, is keeping it clean. Well, that's it too. Yeah, you see, well, I'm laughing, but I shouldn't laugh. But you know what I'm saying, though, right? You had all the kids working in all these factories. The thing is that with the orphan children that were scooped up and put to work in these workhouses and in these factories, they just had the clothes on their back and that was it. No, I'm not talking about that. They weren't like the merchants and the businessmen that we see in these old photos and in the old film footage from the, early 1900s, where they're wearing suits and hats, right? And these are just, they got the threadbare clothing on their backs and that's it, right? My pal Bill, William Powell, saying, in the middle-class families, mama did the laundry, but in the wealthy families, there were servants that did the laundry, or it was all taken to the cleaners' office. Yeah, you would have servants that did your laundry for you. If you did your laundry yourself, a lot of people, had access to running water. They just didn't have hot and cold running water, but you would have a laundry tub, and you would have your washboard, and you would have your big bar of, soap, laundry soap that came in a bar, or maybe laundry powdered soap later on. In the early 1900s, you get powdered soap flakes, and you just got to elbow grease, man. You just got to scrub and scrub and scrub. But that's the point, is it would have to have been, it's so time. You're not just, throwing in a machine and putting a cap full of Tide in there and pressing a couple of buttons and you come back 30 minutes later and it's all clean, right? Some people that didn't have water, they had to go and fetch the water first. And then if it's their whites and they want to get them white again because they're stained and dirty with mud and blood and whatever the hell else, horse poop, urine, and I spilled chili from my Coney Island chili dog on me. How am I going to get that stain out? Well, then they got to have to boil water on the top of their wood-burning stove in their house. It was like a whole big thing. Like a load of laundry would basically take you hours and hours and hours. And that's how my grandma used to do laundry on the old farm before they had electricity was in a wash tub with a washboard and hang it on the clothesline outside to dry. In the winter, she'd hang them in the kitchen to dry. And she did that till they got electricity on the farm in, I think, 62. And then she was able to get an electric washing machine, which was basically just a big tub that had like a agitator in it, but then it had a separate mechanism on top, which was a wringer. So you still had to take your wash out of the wash tub and run it through the wringer to wring out all the water. Hey, Vaughn's in the box. Howdy, Vaughn. Good to see you. Yeah, actually, yeah, if you want to go water for blood, that's all I got. Yeah. Wasn't that an old Jerry Seinfeld routine where he's talking about Tide liquid laundry, or Tide laundry detergent? One of their big things is it'll even take blood out of your clothing. And he's like, well, if you've got blood on your shirt, maybe laundry isn't your biggest concern right now. You know what I'm saying? You may want to, consult a physician prior to doing your laundry. Deanne in the box. Hello, howdy. Welcome. But yeah, it just must have been brutal. I do my laundry in the creek like that right now. Really? Well, I mean, that's how I do my laundry when I go for extended camping trips. Right? Because I like to rough it when I go camping. So if I'm camping for 5 days, I got to pack 5 days worth of food and water on my back. So I'm not going to have 5 days worth of clothing. Okay? I'm going to have 2 days worth of clothing, plus an extra set of underwear and socks for emergency. I don't know, in case I fall in the pond fishing or something, and, I got to change into dry socks and underwear. You know what I'm saying? So after those 2 days worth of clothing are starting to get to the point where you got to, give them a wash, well, yeah, you take them down to the creek or the river or the lake or whatever, and you wash them. Hang them dry. Heck, I bet you there's some people that we know right now in this community that do their laundry like that all the time. I bet you Awakening Soldier does his laundry like that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Vaughn says, no stains on my New West Reset shirt yet, but I'm working on it. Well, that's good. And I'm glad it fits you well, too. I got there pretty fast, considering it's got to go all the way to Australia land from Canada land. That's practically opposite ends of the realm here. So it got there pretty quickly. So yeah, very, very interesting video footage. The clothing, the buildings, the modes of transportation are all fascinating. A guy just gets a kick out of, the older the better, right? If I could find footage from closer to 1900 video footage like that, 1915, 1917 or earlier, the earlier the better, I just get a kick out of it. But I mean, hippie, I don't mean, I hope you don't mean to, I hope you don't think I meant to like jump up and down on you with that whole, they look like they're wearing uniforms, because they do. And that's the other thing too, is it's not like there was a million retailers, a million different, it's like back then, 1880s to, the 1920s, roughly ish. There weren't malls with each mall has got like 100 different stores in it. There was no I go to the Gap. If they don't want what I have at the Gap, then I'll go to the JCPenney. If JCPenney doesn't have it, then I'll go to the Marks and Spencer. No, there were a couple of sort of department type store or clothing store chains that were starting up around the late teens, early 20s ish. But I mean, for the most part, you were going in and there was only a couple places that you could get your clothing. And, there wasn't 15 different styles of shirts and 48 different styles of blouses back then. You had like 5 or 6 different styles of shirts, and that's it. That is it. You want that shirt? Okay, it comes in these 3 styles, and it comes in these 3 colors. White, baby blue, and off-white. That's what you get. So yeah, there definitely was not the variety of color, selection, and I mean, fashion wasn't really a fashion until you get into roughly the 20s, right? And we start after all of these world's fairs and stuff, and the world kind of opens up and mass communication and transcontinental communication starts. And then we start hearing about, the fashions in Paris and Milan and London, right? And then it starts being copied in New York. And eventually it makes its way across Canada and the US, right? But in 1905, it's not like there was these haute couture fashion houses and everybody were dying to get the latest and greatest from these designers at their local shop. It's just not how it worked. You had a very limited selection of colors, styles, and limited places you can get them. And that was that. So yeah, for the most part, they are wearing a lot of the same clothing. They do look the same because they are basically the same. You got a half dozen styles to choose from with a half dozen colors at best if you're lucky, and that's it. Jabru Joe says, I had an Indian Dobiwala when I lived in Singapore. I don't even know what a Dobiwala is. I do not know. What's going on with Hippie? Hippie says, have you got merchandise, Frankie? If you do, I could put a link in the chat. I do not. But I kind of do. Which reminds me, I'm way overdue to send you one, Hippie. These are, I don't have merchandise per se. I just had a bunch of t-shirts made just to give as gifts for folks that just help out with the channel. Or when I do a subscriber meetup, right? Like the last meetup in Inglewood, brought a bunch of t-shirts with me and gave out some t-shirts to everybody that showed up for the meetup. Sent one to Vaughn for some channel donations, very generously done by Vaughn. I'm going to be sending one out to Jabru Joe for a bunch of work that he's done behind the scenes. A lot of the great artwork that he's shared with the channel, for the Knucklehead shows, which one's coming up very quickly here toward the end of August, by the way. Chris over at Old World Exploration, my partner in crime on that show, he was away with his family. Speaking of camping, he was away camping with his family. Plus, he's had a lot of projects on the go. He's building some additions on his house. I think he's building a new deck on his house or whatnot. But yeah, so what I will do is after the show, Hippie, I will email you. And if you're comfortable emailing me back your mailing address, I will send you a New West Reset t-shirt. As a thank you. Because, yeah, you definitely help out the channel on many, many occasions. As many occasions as you can. And I certainly appreciate it. So, yeah, it's not anything that I'm selling on the channel or anything like that. It's just there's a local print shop just down the street from me. And I thought, hey, perfect. Support a local business, get some t-shirts made with, just the channel logo basically on it, the clock with the channel name, New West Reset. And just have them as gifts for friends of the channel. Sean Osborne in the box. Hello, howdy. Welcome. Vincent says, I'm going to be careful before I bring up suits around Frankie again. I can tell you that. Yeah, well, I was pretty entrenched in the clothing business for quite a long time. Basically from the time I was about 19 or 20 years old until I was about mid 40s, 45-ish, 10 years ago-ish, maybe a little more, 15 years ago, maybe. Got out of the clothing business. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It was, to be honest, the selling portion of it was not my favorite part. Although I did have a lot of repeat clients, a lot of good customers that would come back to see me. And they would follow me when I switched from one company to another. But for the most part, when you're high in sales like that, it's commission, right? And if you don't sell, you don't eat, right? And I don't like that kind of pressure, because I don't like projecting that kind of pressure onto my customer. I didn't want to be a pushy guy, right? If a customer came in because he needed some shirts and I showed him a whole schwack of shirts and he didn't like any of them, well, I didn't feel right in pressuring the guy just to make a sale, right? It's not a good rapport to have with a regular customer that becomes more than a customer, they become an acquaintance, or even in some cases a friend. So I eventually parlayed my way out of the sales aspect and got more into the merchandising aspect of it, where I would set up stores or set up different sections for different branches of the company that I worked for, right? So I worked for Harry Rosen, which is a pretty high-end menswear chain of stores up here in Canada land, basically from coast to coast. So I just bought from store to store and helped them set up the stores when they renovated a store, opened a new store, whatever the case may be. Seasonal change. Oh, we're going to set up our Christmas windows. That kind of stuff. So I enjoyed that. I like kind of working with my hands, and we used to build a lot of props and paint the window backgrounds, but I also like the clothing aspect of it. So it was perfect for me because I could still kind of, play around with the luxurious clothing that I myself couldn't afford to ever buy or wear. But at the same time, I got to kind of work with my hands and get dirty and roll my sleeves up and do some manual stuff too. So it was kind of the best of both worlds. I got to be, a manual labor guy, but artsy fartsy at the same time. Yeah, when I bought my first suit was for my high school graduation. My dad actually bought me the suit, and he took me to a men's clothing store here in Canada, a nice chain of sort of mid-range suits called Jack Fraser. Took me in, and he bought me my first suit for my graduation. I still have that suit. It still fits too, actually. Oh, see, now I done did it, because now Jabber Joe's expecting his t-shirt to be made of silk and have gold thread embroidery. Well, yeah, well, I was a no pressure salesman. So, I just like to kind of be casual and joke around with my customers, right? I mean, obviously, if my customer was in a hurry, and he's like a vice president of some oil company, I mean, I'm not going to goof around the guy and waste his time. But yeah, I was more of just, the salesperson that when you walked into a store and they greeted you and you said, "Oh yeah, I'm just kind of kicking some tires and looking around here, buddy. Climb off my back, will you?" I'd be like, "Yeah, no problem. My name's Frankie. I'll just be over here doing something to keep out of your hair. If you need me, just holler," and I mean, just kind of keep it casual and joke around with my customers. I like to I'm very folksy. I like to make people laugh. So that was kind of my thing. The nice thing about being a merchandiser too is I was still on the sales floor, and a lot of the salespeople knew that I had, quite a intimate knowledge of the clothing, because I would be pulling it apart and disassembling it, or pulling it out of its packaging and ironing it and pressing it and manipulating it onto mannequins and putting it in window displays. So a lot of times they would come to me for advice on the quality or the construction of the garments, right? Because they knew I was handling it a lot more than perhaps they would. I would go so far as to try on these suits to see how they fit, so I knew how they were going to be fitting in the displays and stuff. So, oh yeah, you got to get your Masonic checkerboard lining. Absolutely. Oh, I see. Adobe Wallet is the Indian equivalent of the Chinese laundry. Oh, now I get it. Okay, gotcha. I'm just kidding. We're just goofing around.
You know what I mean? All right, we're having a good time.
Then he says, my fursuit does not fit. Oh, yeah, you got to do that, Bill. William Powell's in the box says, I've gotten rid of everything I've owned 3 or 4 times. Yeah, you got to purge every once in a while, you know. I'm a pretty minimalist guy. You know, I don't have an extravagant lifestyle. The stuff that I have is nice stuff. Like the clothing I wear is still good quality clothing, but it's classic clothing and it's not super expensive. It's just good quality clothing that's not super trendy. So I know 10 years from now, I can, you know, put on a shirt, a pair of pants and show up somewhere and people aren't going to go, dude, that was like so 2004. You know what I mean? But even with that said, you know, I'm a bit of a collector. You know, you see a lot of the old cameras and stuff in the background. So I got a lot of little tchotchke stuff that I got to try to keep that in check. You know, you go to the flea market or a yard sale or a swap meet or a car boot sale or something, and you see some guy's got a box full of these old cameras. And you're $20 each. How many you got? 20. I'll take them all. You know, you can't do that anymore. But my biggest problem is, and I've shown these on the channel here before many, many times, but my biggest problem is these things, these here vinyl records, these here vinyl blues records, man. That's my bugaboo. I've got about 1,500, that's right, 1,500 vinyl records, and over 1,000 of them are blues. And that's really tough to keep in check. So even with that, I got to purge every once in a while. I got to say, all right, in the past 6 months, I've bought 10 albums. Now I got to go through my collection now and really sternly and strictly and, you know, kind of be disciplined and say, okay, when was the last time I listened to this record? Right? Huey Lewis and the News. What the hell do I have this for? Oh, because I got it at a record store in the dollar bin. I only paid $1 for this record. But I listened to it once after I got it home and cleaned it, and I put it on the shelf, and there it's sat ever since. So I can pull out that Huey Lewis and the News record and get rid of it. Take it to a record store and get credit for it or something. You know what I'm saying? So even with one of my personal passions and hobbies, collecting vinyl records, even that, I got to try to every once in a while. I've never gotten rid of the whole collection, mind you, but I do have to go through it and cull the collection. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, it's just, it's what you got to do. Deborah Joe says, hey, Vaughn, last time I wore a suit was when I went to a B&S ball in the Warrumbungles back in the mid-70s. Speaking a completely different language to me, man. I don't even know what that is there, eh? I'm a sheltered Canadian, there, eh, bud? We're very sheltered up here. Very, very innocent, eh? The little kid scares you? Why? Because it's like a jump scare, you mean? No one likes little kids yelling at them. Oh, man. Well, we're coming up on 2.5 hours. I was going to wind this thing down almost an hour ago, but we're having fun on this, well, you know, it's Sunday Fun Day after all. But with that said, it's 6:30 p.m. local time here on the nose. So I'm gonna throw some food in my eating hole so it goes down my food tube and I can get some sustenance in the stomach. So as a reminder, thank you very much for joining me here on the newish now Sunday time slot for the live show. Going forward every Sunday, going to do the live show, doing the old switcheroo barbecue, and Friday is now your boots on the ground. And as mentioned earlier, Wednesday, still your midweek. You'll be getting your vintage footage video, the black and white footage, set the music. So thank you very much for joining me here. New West Reset and New West Reset Live for this episode. It was episode 78. We're having some fun checking out the Torontonian Pedestrian Oblivion and checking out the shenanigans on the official story of the Toronto Municipal Railway, the streetcar trolley system, tram thing. How goofy that all is. Deanne says, be right back. Dog walk time. Give him 3 pets for me, please. No, give him 3 pets and 2 tummy scritches. Thanks for shooting in, Deanne. Appreciate it. And to all of you, thank you very much for joining me here for the live. And again, as mentioned, if you're watching this after the live, really appreciate you taking time to watch. Thank you for your support. Always appreciate it. Everybody on the Rumble as well. Thank you very kindly. Everybody on the HooTubes. And again, links for everything below. Coming up, Edmonton trip, the end of August. As the date gets closer, I will come back at you with further details. I know there's a couple of folks living in Edmonton that want to meet up when I'm up there. So I'm going to try to organize some kind of impromptu thing up there in Edmonton. As again, as we get closer to that day, I will kind of nail it down to a specific day. Also, at the end of the month coming up, another edition of the Knuckleheads with Chris from Old World Exploration. We're going to be looking at Thunder Bay, Ontario. We're going to be sticking around the Toronto, Ontario-ish region, although Thunder Bay is not really close to Toronto, but you get what I'm saying. What else is going on? Well, you get your boots on the ground every Friday. Got some other footage from when Vinny and I, cousin Vinny, went to Heritage Park, me and Vinny. So we still got the old paddle boat. That's going to be coming up on the channel. As well as the old blacksmith that's there at the park. And some other stuff. And what else? Still trying to lock in a time for the my coworker friend who's a Freemason. Quite high up in the Masons. And he wants to take me on a tour of some of the old buildings that the Freemasons built here in Calgary. Obviously, buildings we've already covered. But it'd be interesting to get it from a Freemason's perspective, of course. So yeah, keep your ocular sphericals locked in on the channel here for that, all that upcoming stuff. I know some of that's kind of vague, but so guy's got a lot of plates he's spinning over here. So yeah, an old-timey paddle boat. Yeah, a rear paddle boat. So I think that is going to seal the deal here for Frankie, New West Reset Live. So once again, thank you very much, everybody, for shooting in and joining me. If you haven't already, give a guy one of these. And thanks to everybody who's already subscribed and shared and supported me in many different ways. Really, the best way to support is just comment and say howdy and let me know how you're doing and where you're shooting in from and how much you enjoy, or maybe, I don't know, I get a lot of how much people don't enjoy the channel. A lot of people have issue with the hands and the fingers. Don't know why, they do. But hey, it is what it is. Yeah, stern wheel. Yeah, with one smokestack and all aboard and all that. Yeah, toot toot, the whole bit. Yeah, that's right. The SS. Can't remember the name of it now. The SS something. Can't remember. But anyway, that'll be coming up here shortly on the channel. So there you go. Thanks, everybody. Until the next one, take care out there and have yourselves a good one. All right? Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.